New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. It's me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. How are you there, my lovely friends? I hope everything is going smoothly in your world today. And if it's not going smoothly, may you just move through it with ease and grace. So, I want to welcome you today to your doula for grief. And again, I'm Bonnie Gonzalez. I'm being a little redundant here, Bonnie Gonzalez. And I am a grief coach, a certified grief educator, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator. So I think we got all bases covered there and covering all bases when it comes to grief. Today, my program, the theme today is grief, grieving, and the griever. I think that covers it all. I think all of us can relate. All of us have been in grief at one point in time in our lives, grieving, and we have been in that state of grieving. And so therefore we have been the griever. So today, this subject just touches or covers all of those areas of grief, not all, but most of the areas that are really pertinent to helping to navigate those emotional states that we're in when we're in grief. And I just want to say, if this is your first time joining me, I want you to know that you're in good hands. You have come to the right place to begin your healing journey that involves grief. And if you're returning, oh, I'm so glad to know you're out there. I'm glad to know we've got it like that. We've got that kind of relationship. So we'll get started with our theme. And what I do want to say, my tagline for grief is don't do grief alone. Don't do grief alone. You know that grief needs to be heard, grief needs to be shared, and grief needs to be validated. Those are the three pillars that are really the guideposts to moving through grief. So know that grief needs to be heard, needs to be validated and shared. So therefore, you cannot do grief alone. We can't heal in a vacuum. We just can't. But I'm here to offer ways that we can move toward healing. And I'd love to, I've got a few minutes. Yeah, get yourself comfortable. If you need a cup of tea, that can happen. Because if you've watched before, you know I'm going to cover what is loss and what is grief. So you can take those few moments to go and get what you need to make yourself comfy so that you can be all ears and staying tuned to what's being said. So I'll just start with, what is loss and what is grief? So loss is any expected or unexpected occurrence where you can't go back to the way things were before. And that is death, divorce, a diagnosis, a geographical move, natural disaster, also birth of a child, giving up that single life, or that single focused life, because now you have another life to focus on. Puberty, graduation, job promotions, those can all be losses in a sense. And what follows those losses is grief. And grief is defined as the collection of normal, natural emotions that follows a loss and can include sadness and anger, but can also include numbness, confusion, guilt, anxiety, even joy. Some people are in joy if they've had a loved one that has suffered for so long and they're finally freed from this physical world. They can be, even though they're sad, they can have that joyous feeling for their loved one. So don't feel like, oh, if I'm feeling this, it's abnormal. I shouldn't be in joy. I shouldn't be feeling good because I've had this big loss and I'm grieving. It's like we all grieve differently. We're just like those, what is the snowflake? Every snowflake is different. Our grief for each one of us is going to be different. So don't, whatever you do, don't compare your grief to anyone else's or the way that you grieve. You are you. You are unique in that way. So loss is what we experience, and then we move on to grief is what we feel. So I hope that helps a little bit with, not a little bit. I know that clarified, that answered your question, loss and grief. So now you know. So I want to move into, and that's grief. That's grief. We have a loss, and then we experience the emotions from that loss, and they're labeled as grief, or we call them grief. And I just want to read something from Ayadla Van Zandt from her Acts of Faith Daily Meditations for People of Color. And this was from September 30th, and it so spoke to my heart. It always has. And the title of this meditation that she has written, it's called Transformation. And she starts out with saying, those who don't know how to weep with their whole heart don't know how to laugh either. And that's Golda Meir. And Ayala goes on to say, when we lose a loved one to death or end a long-term relationship, it is perfectly normal to grieve. We must honor and recognize each stage of the grief and each emotion we have. She goes on to say, there will be shock, there will be denial, anger, confusion, fear, helplessness, numbness, and eventually acceptance. There will be a point when you do not know what to do, but you want to do something. At that point, we must understand and accept that there is no death. Yes, there is no death. There is only an end. There is only transformation. Our loved one now exists in a new time, a new place, a new reality, and so do we. The relationship as we knew it has been transformed from the physical to the spiritual, from marriage to separation, from loveship to friendship. It has not changed. It has not ended. It has only changed. When we allow ourselves to grieve, we release the negative thoughts and emotions that make it easier to accept the change. Let me read that again. When we allow ourselves to grieve, we release the negative thoughts and emotions that make it easier to accept the change. When we do not grieve, people, when we do not grieve, we get stuck. So grief is natural and normal and to be expected. We owe it to ourselves and to the memory of the relationship to grieve and cleanse our souls. Affirm an affirmation that you can use that she suggests is, I will take the time to grieve and prepare myself for the change. I will take time to grieve and prepare myself for the change. And I love that writing from Ayala. And with doing this grief work for such a long time now, what my belief is about grief is that it is moving us to acceptance. We've had this loss. It's sudden, even if it, what I want to say about sudden deaths can be the most difficult because there was no preparation. And people that say have had a long illness and have been suffering, there's anticipatory grief that happens before the actual physical death or transition. And that person has had time to go to work through these emotions that those that had a sudden loss are working through now. Not that it doesn't make it easy just because you've had months to prepare or years. But there is that internal thinking that, yes, this will end. And people that have had anticipatory grief for a period of time do tend to come to that stage of acceptance maybe sooner after the transition. But I do believe that that's what grief is about, moving to accepting what has happened. It's almost if we're being forced to accept a situation that we didn't sign up for, or we didn't put an order into the universe for this. It's been thrust upon us. It's been, for some people I know, they feel like they've been rolled over by it. And I do believe that that is what is happening when we're grieving. Accepting, trying our best to accept and put it into our lives in a different way, or accepting what has happened. And that's why grief and grieving is so exhausting. I say that all the time, there's 10% of our brain energy and power that's being used to sort through this grief and put things in place. You're no longer going to have that person in your life for X activity or Y activity. So putting it into perspective. And so therefore being gentle with yourself during this time. Just being gentle with yourself. And so with that said, knowing that a person that is grieving is in that state of accepting what has happened to their lives. And it is only natural to want to bring comfort. That's, we are social creatures. That's what we do. Subon Souffle says, in that West African culture, it's that no one is just in grief alone. If I am suffering with grief, it's like the whole community says, grief has found us. Grief has found us. And there was one other culture, I don't remember if it was an African culture or not, that I was reading on grief. And it talked about when there is a death in the village, that everyone is expected to move some piece of furniture around, move something in their outside garden to show that there has been a change that has happened in their lives as well. That it's not just the status quo, that people's lives are going on like nothing happened. It's like it's a communal effort of coming together to support that person that is grieving, to say, yes, we feel that. We're shifting our lives to show you, to be in support with you, so that you feel our compassion for the change that you're now going through. And I remember attending a big retreat for widows and widowers. And one woman was sharing how it was the holiday season that her husband made his transition. It was like December. And she said as she was coming home from the hospital immediately after his transitioned, as she was coming home, she couldn't believe that her neighbors had put up Christmas lights. She just couldn't believe that her world had just been shattered and stopped. But yet, she looked around at the neighbors and it's like nothing ever happened. Nobody acknowledged her grief. Nobody acknowledged her pain by carrying on with our traditions. And not that that is our intent. I don't want to browbeat anyone. We just don't have grief etiquette. And I'm not saying that Christmas lights shouldn't go up and those kinds of things, but it's like, no, just having awareness and sensitivity around our brothers and sisters that may be in grief. But, when she was telling the story, she could look back now and see, she even had a laugh about it, but just to show the intensity of the loss and how it can affect even your thinking. So that's why I would like to talk about what to say to someone who is in grief and what not to say. We hear so much about. Oh gosh, I've got this cute little book. I'm going to show it to you. It's like the stupid shit that people say to grievers. The stupid shit people say to grievers. It's really, it's humorous at times, and then at times it's just really sad. And I feel that that's my work to do in the world, is to really demystify this thing called grief. Learn some grief etiquette. Learn what to say to people that are in grief, and learn what can be helpful, and move away from our cliches. So I'll start with this one when we're saying what not to say. And the first one is everything happens for a reason. And the reason that this is not a good statement is because it does absolutely nothing to ease the pain of the loss. Just tell someone that they're innocent, baby died for a reason. What reason could there be for this person to endure such pain? So just knowing that death is death, people die. So saying that it happens for a reason does not make that point or bring that point to the heart. How about this one? Time heals all wounds. Time heals all wounds. Well, I'm here to say that grief has no timeline. What does heal is time and attention. To know that there's no magical day that you're going to wake up and whoop, grief is all gone. Going back to what I said in the beginning about the acceptance, we learn to accept it and put it into a perspective that we can move forward with it, but we still move forward with that grief. It's never going to be a time that I can look back and say, yep, I'm all healed up. My dad died 40 years ago. I'm all healed up. No. There's always a little bit of sadness in my heart when I think about losing my dad 40 years ago. What has happened in my life that he missed out on, that I missed being able to, hold his counsel and be in counsel with him? So much that I always feel could have been shared. So that's a grief. And no, I'm not like I was when he first transitioned, just, an emotional, just truly, truly emotional and sad. But I have learned to accept that in its place. I feel that my father's always with me, more of a father after his transition than in his physical life. So That's me. That's how I've been able to put it in perspective and accept it and move forward with living and living each day for him. I know he'd be happy about what I'm doing right now. So the next thing not to say is cheer up. They wouldn't want you to be so sad. Well, the truth of that statement is you can't cheer someone out of grief. You can't cheer them out of grief, not at all. So we'll let that rest. No more cheering out, just being with what is. And here's another one that you may know. Just think positive and you'll be fine. Just think positive and you'll be fine. A statement like that is toxic positivity at its finest. It does nothing. It does nothing to lessen the pain of the griever. So we'll leave it there. And the final one that we'll stop after this one is they are in a better place. And you know what I say to this one when somebody says that to me? You know, after my brother died, he was a better place. It's like, yeah, he's in a better place, but I'm not. Emotionally, I'm not. So again, this statement does not bring relief to the griever or allow them to even really express. So some of these statements really shuts down the opportunity for the griever to speak. If you remember in the very beginning, I said grief needs to be heard, it needs to be shared, and it needs to be validated. So all of these statements are not helping to validate that person's pain. And so instead, you can offer other statements. And the one that comes to mind most, and someone just validated this for me, or affirmed this for me, is that what you can say is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, other than I am sorry for your loss, if you want to add that. But you can just say, I don't know what to say. Or sometimes I've used, I wish I had words that could help you feel less in pain or feel this pain less intensely. But to acknowledge that they are in pain. I love Thich Nhat Hanh, and I've used this one. I am here for you. I am here for you. Things like that allow for dialogue to say, I'm here for you. Or to say, how's your grief today? That says, yes, I want to hear what you feel when I say, how's your grief today? So with that said, and I know that we all want to bring comfort when we're confronted with a griever. And the thing is that our society doesn't prepare us, but we're changing that, turning the tide on that, changing that to say, we are learning what to say to each other to help comfort and help soothe, because that's what we really want to do, is to bring comfort. But knowing that the most important thing that you can do with someone that's in grief is just to be with them. Your presence is invaluable in bringing about comfort. So know that. Just saying, I'm here for you. Be there for that person. And this is where I ask you, please be kind with yourself. Don't offer up what you can't give. And it's okay to say, oh, I am just feeling forever today, but I don't have it, to bring comfort to someone else. So don't put yourself on, oh, but I should, coulda, woulda, should. No, take care of you. And then therefore, when you are in better condition, you're better able to bring your best self to that situation. And the person will be able to feel that. And then my words to the griever is ask for it. Ask for what you need. Please find your voice to ask for what you need. People are always saying, if you need something, call me. I'll be right there. I want to be there. Well, let me tell you this about a griever. I said they're not going to call. They're not going to call. They're in grief. So therefore, what I recommend is that you stay in touch with them. I invite you to stay in touch with them. Reach out to them every week or every couple of weeks. Just reach out. I was just reading something this morning that was talking about this person had been in grief and lost their loved one. And she said a friend, every couple days or every couple days or once a week, would just send her emojis. And she said there were no words, but the emoji, she said it made her feel like she had not been forgotten, that somebody remembers I am moving through a difficult time. So for that, she was very grateful. And that's easy. We all have cell phones now. We all know emojis. So that's another way of staying in touch. If you don't have it that day to really give or go and be physically present, just send something to say, yes, I am thinking during this difficult time. And then, as I said, I want to go back to the griever. If you're the one that is in grief and grieving, I said, find your voice to ask for what you need. And here's what I'd like to recommend, and I got this from that little book, The Stupid Shit That People Say to Grievers, is that as you're going about your day, as you're going about your week, and if something pops up, it's like, oh, it would be nice if I had someone to pick up the dry cleaning. Oh, it would be nice if, grocery shopping is such a drag now. If I could go grocery shopping with someone, if they could just pick me up and take me with them to go grocery shopping. Or I'd love to have someone just come over and, watch a movie with me, or let's go out to the movies. So as these things come up, just jot them down. Just make a note of what it is. Like, wow, but it would be great if somebody dropped off a chocolate cake right now, or if somebody could bring over something later. And just write it down, making notes of those things and times that you felt like you wish you had someone to help you with a certain activity or event. And then that way, when someone asks you what they can do, what do you need? You have something at the ready. And not just something, but an activity idea that you have given thought to. And people love to help each other. People really do love to help each other. So look at that idea of making a note when things come up of what you need, and not waiting. Because when somebody asks, 9 times out of 10, it really has caught you off guard and like, oh, I can't think of anything. But if you have your list, you could say, oh, let me look at my list here a second and see. So that is how we can support our grievers. And I know that's a lot. So maybe we'll just take a deep breath and kind of shift with that to say, wow, that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to really be with. Because, as you know, grief is the number one subject not talked about. And certainly death is the second most not talked about subject. We have a hard time with death and grief in our culture. But as I said, we're getting there. We're changing these things. We're changing the way that we are experiencing grief, grieving, death, and dying. We're changing that. More awareness now. I think as our population, the baby boomers are the oldest and been around for a while, and I'm one of those boomers. I think we are doing some things to change the way death is perceived, death, grief, and dying are perceived. So with that, I want to bring you to this quote by Bronnie Ware. And she's the author of a book. It was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number one, I'm not going to go through all 5, but number 1 was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I'll read it once more. I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So I like that. And so it gives you a moment to pause and go within. There was another quote I saw. I'm going to try to paraphrase here. Let me think. When death comes for you, make sure you are alive. Meaning not having lived the life that you wanted to, that you're in a state of just apathy, inertia, nothing happening. So go and live life to the fullest. Live it to the fullest. Life is short and then you die. Well, I guess that's a pretty bright note to end on, but I don't want to end there. I want to give you some tips, okay? I want to talk to you about being good to yourself. If you're good to yourself, then you can be good to others. It's always an inside job. Always an inside job. How we treat ourselves is how we come back to treat others. And if we're loving and kind and gentle with ourselves, we'll be loving and kind to those around us. You can't give from that negative well, you can give from the overflow. So I want to talk to you about a few little things that possibly each one of us can do, whether we're the griever or the one that's comforting the griever. If grief has not visited us, that's not an issue that you've had to wrestle with yet. Okay, but this is just good. How about this? I'll just step out on the limb and call it good self-care so that we're good to ourselves and we're good to others. Okay? And this is from Diane Days. Oh gosh. Yeah, Diane Days is her name. Okay. So the first thing is sacred silence. Your quiet moments are an invitation to spirit and a window into your true nature. How about spiritual readings, meditation, prayer, a walk in nature? Weave your higher guidance into daily life. I'll read it again. So sacred silence, taking that time to just find silence. So your quiet moments are an invitation to spirit and a window into your true nature. Spiritual readings, meditation, prayer, and a walk in nature weave your higher guidance into daily life. And this next one I really love, and you could come back to the show, I guess, and do a little slow-mo to say these are journal prompts. And the journal prompts are, what brings me joy? What inspires and amazes me? What do I really need today? Who am I when I am not worried or overwhelmed? In what aspects of my life am I being completely myself? What is my highest wisdom saying to me now? And I'm going to read those prompts once more. Really, I so listening to each one of them. The first one is what brings me joy, what inspires and amazes me. What do I really need today? Who am I when I am not worried or overwhelmed? In what aspects of my life am I being completely myself? What is my highest wisdom saying to me now? Mindfulness. Slow down and observe life more deeply. Use the moment to relax your habitual thoughts. Practice compassion to yourself as much as you practice compassion for others. Again, slow down and observe life more deeply. Use the moment to relax your habitual thoughts. Practice compassion for yourself as much as you practice compassion for others. The next one is relentless self-love. Relentless self-love. I have a friend who calls it radical self-love. So we'll say relentless self-love. Embrace your perceived imperfections. And note I say that. Perceived imperfections. There's that thought that perception is not always reality. So embrace your perceived imperfections. Don't judge the way you grow and change. Release the negative self-talk. Release the negative self-talk. What you consider to be your weaknesses may be part of your greatest wisdom and the path to your purpose. And the last is your inner wisdom. Remember that there is no competition, ever. You are the only one with your gifts. Know that you are a sacred being here with all the rest of us to share your love. You honor all others. You're honoring all others begins by becoming fully yourself. You honor all others by becoming fully yourself. I love those, and I love that last statement by becoming fully yourself. Love that. Be yourself. All others are taken. So there you have those words of wisdom to help you really embrace you. So therefore you are there and available and able to support others as they grieve and go through life changes. So I hope that this has been a help and has helped you to see grief in a more favorable light, to be gentle with yourself while you're grieving, and to be compassionate and tender when comforting a griever. So therefore, I want you today, as we bring this show to a close, here's what I want you to do when you're all finished. I want you to go and look in the mirror and look in your own eyes with kindness and compassion and say to yourself, what do I need today? What do I need to do? And listen to yourself and listen deeply. There's a voice inside that's waiting to speak. All you need to do is listen. Whatever comes up, whatever comes through, today when you ask that question, honor it. Make that a daily ritual that you start the day with. What do I need to do? If you take care of your own needs, you have more to give to others. And with that, I just want to bring my show to a close. I want to just say thank you for watching and for being here. And if you're in grief and having a difficult time, please reach out. Reach out to family or friends. Reach out to me. I am a grief coach, a grief educator. You'll be in good hands. So with that said, I thank you for watching. And let's continue on our healing of grief together. Healing our grief together. Thank you, and I can't wait to see you again next week. So take care. Thank you.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.